Today we're going to be discussing the New Orleans Saints blowout win over the Dallas Cowboys this afternoon. I mean, who would have expected this, right? You have the Saints, they beat a bad Panthers team. The Cowboys, they go on the road as underdogs, they beat the Browns. From what I saw, everyone said the Cowboys were going to win this game very comfortably. But that wasn't the case. They got their asses absolutely handed them. You love to see it, man. America's football team. The Saints from start to finish dominated this game, and a lot of it has to do with the play calling. The Saints are much more creative now. They're winning up front. They're feeding Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed, Jamal Williams, Taysom Hill. His guys are eating. Derek Carr is efficient with the football. He goes out there in this one, and he ends up throwing, we put up the stats, for 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. If it wasn't for that pick, I mean, Carr would have been pretty much perfect in this game. And the interception, it was a wide open Chris Olave across the middle of the field, and Carr just missed him high. So, I mean, this is a ball you want to have back. But overall, Carr did a good job of managing the game. The Saints, they won this with their defense. They won it with their run game. Kamara was 20 of 115 for 3 touchdowns as a receiver. He also added in another 61 yards and a touchdown through the air, which means 4 touchdowns in total. I mean, this was just vintage Kamara. The play calling from the Saints is so much better now versus what it was last season. I know this team got hot down the stretch. They won 6 of their last 7, but they look like one of the better teams, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL. And it's wild because coming into this season, everyone was talking about the Atlanta Falcons and they were talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this division, but the Saints have established themselves as really the team to beat, in my opinion. I have not watched the Bucs Lions game. Please don't spoil it down below. I know one of you guys is, so shout out to you that's about to do it. But for all I know, the Saints could be in first place right now, right? The Falcons play on Monday. The Panthers are obviously 0-2 after losing to the Chargers. Even if I didn't know that they lost, it's the Panthers. They lost, right? And this defense, like, we have to talk about the defense because the offense scored 44. Kamara's getting all the attention. But the defense is actually what impressed me most from the Saints. Their ability to deflect the pass, to break it up, to come up and to make tackles, to be physical. And Marshawn Lattimore, one of the best corners in football, didn't even play in this game. And the secondary was still stout. Dak, 293 yards, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, just 1 touchdown, 27 of 39. The Cowboys, I'm not going to say they couldn't run the ball. I mean, 21 of 68 is about as bad as it gets in the NFL. Like, you don't really see much worse than that. But because the Saints offense was scoring at will and had no trouble pushing the ball down the field, the Cowboys were forced to throw the ball, and that made them one-dimensional. And the Cowboys, they just don't have the talent to be able to play like that. CeeDee Lamb is great. He's a top 4, top 3 receiver in the game, 4 for 90 and a touchdown, but Saints fans will take that any single day, just 90 yards and a touchdown for CeeDee Lamb because they know nobody else is going to beat them. Jalen Tolbert, 6 for 82. Luke Schoonmaker, 6 for 43. Rico Dowdle, 4 for 29. Brandon Cooks, 2 for 19. Zeke, 2 for 16. Jalen Brooks had a catch. I mean, that's what you want if you're a Saints fan is, hey, let's double CeeDee Lamb. Tyrann Mathieu did a great job of having safety help over the top, and let's just let somebody else beat us one-on-one. And that just was never going to happen for the Cowboys. So give credit to the Saints for their pass rush, their ability to stop the run, to not allow it, and just put the Cowboys into 3rd and long, because the Saints know that if they're in 3rd and long situations defensively, they're going to win that game pretty comfortably, and that's exactly what they did. Outside of that, I thought Chris Olave had a bounce-back game. 4 for 81, was a yard short of a touchdown. I do have Olave in fantasy, so I was rooting for him regardless because I love Chris Olave, man. Of course, out of Ohio State, former first-round pick. He had this great route. It was a yard short of scoring, but he set the Saints up for, of course, a rushing touchdown that they'd get a couple plays later. Yeah, Olave, the last game was very quiet. Carr wasn't looking for him. Whenever you win a game comfortably and your best player, your star player, does not have a big performance, it's very encouraging because only good things are going to come from that. And we saw Olave get back on track. Again, very promising performance. I mean, this was just an all-around ass-kicking by the Saints. I was going to make a video yesterday saying that, hang on, I think the Saints actually are going to win this, and they're going to win it pretty comfortably. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them, the way they look. The Cowboys, they beat a Browns team that they didn't have to play even close to their best football. And I was thinking, well, if the Cowboys don't play their best game, if they don't play a perfect game, the Saints are going to win this. And the Cowboys certainly didn't play a perfect game, and the Saints won this comfortably. And I just think it just starts off with coaching. I mean, you look at the coaching from the Saints now versus last season. I mean, a lot of people thought Dennis Allen was going to be on the hot seat if the Saints had another year where they didn't make the playoffs. That potentially, he could be on his way out. Football analysis, for example, one of the more respected creators on this platform made a video saying in one of his bold predictions that Dennis Allen would lose his job this season, and right now that couldn't be farther from the truth, and it was a bold prediction, but still, I mean, Kubiak, the new offensive coordinator for the Saints, I mean, he looked like an elite play caller. I was watching this game, and all I could think about for the majority of it was just how electric the play calling was, whether that be just crack tosses to the sideline, getting away from Micah Parsons, and a lot of creativity where you're faking to one side, going to the other, good blocking, good protection. I mean, the Saints are fully healthy, and they're showing exactly why they're one of the best teams in the NFL when that's the case. And I don't even think it would be a stretch to say that the Saints could end up going to the Super Bowl this year because the NFC is wide open. That's the beauty of the NFC. You don't have to face the Kansas City Chiefs, right? I mean, if you're in the AFC, you've got to beat Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, if he can get healthy and get right, is always going to be difficult. But then you look at the NFC and it's like, well, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and then you're like, well, okay, Derek Carr, I don't think he's the best quarterback in the world, but if Derek Carr plays like he did today, plays like he did against the Panthers in week 1, well, all of a sudden we're talking about the Saints having one of the best defenses in football like they do every single year. We're talking about the weapons in Kamara, Olave, Rashid Shaheed is establishing, I'm getting a little too excited here, he's establishing himself as one of the best speedy deep threats in football. He's also a very underrated route runner. He's not just pure speed. And then you got the tight ends in Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau and the tall, big Jawan Johnson. The offensive line. I mean, the Saints coming into the season either had probably the worst offensive line or the second worst offensive line. And they drafted Talisa Fuaga, who, of course, is looking promising, looking like he's going to be one of the best left tackles in football for a while. And then, like, the right, Trevor Penning is seen by a bust by many. I mean, this is just not a great line, but it's performed well. It won up front, and that was a huge reason why the Saints were able to, again, go out there and rush the ball for 190 yards. Derek Carr was protected. He had a lot of time to throw, only took 1 sack. Dak was under pressure this entire game. So that's where football games are won and lost, is in the trenches. And then, of course, just the defense, man. I mean, I've been extremely impressed with Alontae Taylor. 3 sacks in week 1, and this game was all over the place. And then you've got Paulson Adebo made some plays, and Willie Gay was a big-time pickup. Demario Davis was all over the field. Pete Werner is one of the more underrated players in football. Carl Granderson was one of the best players on the field in this game, probably in the entirety of week 2. Did get injured. He's listed as out. I watched the condensed version, so if somebody gets injured mid-game, I might not even know, which sucks. I mean, I cover every team, so I don't really have time to watch every full game. I will eventually get to it later on next week, but Cam Jordan, I'm looking at Brian Brzee. So this defense, and Isaiah Foskey is a young guy who I think has a lot of potential. Chase Young, of course, came over in free agency. Is Nebi Sewell is he one of the Sewell brothers? You guys are gonna have to let me know, but that'd be cool if he is in the second season. Who knows? But yeah, this was just the type of game where I feel very good about the Saints. You go into Jerry World, you find a way to win this game, you dominate. I mean, who's next for the Saints? I don't know if anyone can beat the Saints right now. Eagles at home against the Eagles, at Atlanta, at Kansas City. Okay, well, they play the Chiefs. I mean, honestly, I would not be shocked if the Saints are 4-0 heading into Arrowhead. And if they're 4-0 heading into Arrowhead and they win that game, I mean, oh my God, like, we're going to start talking about the Saints being the best team in football. Like, it sounds just laughable, but, like, the Saints are really good. And they're a team that I didn't cover much this offseason, and that's on me. That's on me, man. 100%.